Welcome, everybody. I've got Mike Parsons with me, and we will get started right after this.
Welcome to Kingdom Talks, where we engage leaders, teachers, creative artists, and everyday people in conversations that awaken listeners to new revelations of the Kingdom Age. All of our courses, community conversations, partnership links, and much more can be found on our website, kingdomtalksmedia.com. Now, enjoy the show.
All right. Well, welcome to Kingdom Talks. I am excited to have Mike with me. We just got finished with the conference, Restoration of All Things. I guess it's been a couple weeks now. Has it been 3 weeks? I've lost track of time. Being stuck in the house all the time. It's that is something that's interesting. Is a group of reporters were out asking people just, hey, what day is it? And I guess a large portion of them could not tell you what day it was because they're totally out of sync with what they're normally used to doing. So tell me what's going on. What's going on in your part of the world? And I know you've had some interesting meetings going on. And so go ahead, jump in.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, it's much the same as everywhere else. You know, things are on lockdown and people are sort of making the best of it. And I think doing as best they can.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult situation for a lot of people. Still, fear is still, the major issue that's going on around. And people are either afraid of getting a virus or all of the things attached to it. And I think, my personal engagement with it all, really, I'm engaging God, engaging the Father. And, he's been talking to me a lot about the shift that we're in, the period, the season, which, is a shift season. I've been reviewing my journals. So I've been looking back at the first time God talked to me about a shift. And I detected sort of 3 different periods. 2012 was the first one. And he said there was a 3-year period for preparation and there was going to be a shift. That took it to 2015, where we had this sort of new generation beginning. And then 2017, God spoke to me about a shift in 2020 and to get ready and to be prepared. And I took that pretty much to be a personal shift. I didn't really sort of see the implications on a global scale. But actually, when I've gone back over my journals and looked at what God said, very clearly, he talked about a shaking taking place, of the systems of the world. And I sort of overlooked that, I guess. And I think normalcy is really the problem a lot of people have. They're trapped by this normalcy, which means things are going to stay pretty much the same. And hey, hopefully they'll get a little bit better. But in reality, I think that's been smashed by this situation. And people are seeing anything but normal. And now possibilities exist. And I think that opens up for people. Things aren't going to be the same. Their insecurities are gone, whether they be in government or the medical system or the financial system. All of those are shaken. So we're in this situation where people are beginning to look at, well, where am I? What is it all about? And I think facing mortality. And I think Hebrews talks about that as in people who are through fear of death has been in slavery their whole lives. And I think people are facing the reality that mortality is staring them in the face. And for those who don't know where they're going, that is a challenge, and that produces fear, but also the search for an answer. And so a lot of people are becoming more spiritually open. And because they've got time on their hands, they're seeking or looking for answers. And we've got a great opportunity of being able to, in this time, provide some of those answers by introducing people to the reality of who God is as a loving Father, rather than the judgment that's coming upon them because God really doesn't like them. And I think we've got to really challenge that scenario and really open up the reality of who God really is as a loving Father. And this is not his judgment. In fact, he is working within this to bring good out of it, whatever's behind it. And obviously there's so many different theories and conspiracies of what's behind it, but whatever's behind it, let's take advantage of it and let's rule and let's govern. and let's bring a new season into place. And I think the world won't be the same. We
Right.
must take the advantage of that situation, and as sons of God, arise and shine. And what we shine is the love of God.
And you know what I've found is it seems like that this time period has really kind of shaken everybody, to the foundation. And I think a lot of people are finding, Christians who felt that they were on a good foundation, all of a sudden find that they're not. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have that we've been engaged with are now saying, well, I'm thinking about something different now. And it's like, this is the time to engage and move forward as the sons and maturing into that place where I think like you said, we have a fantastic window and an opportunity to step into leadership and to not shrink back. And yet I see many who are shrinking back rather than pressing in. And, all I can say is it shows what the foundation that has been built on. Has your foundation been something that is actually, heaven coming to earth, and it's affecting how we live our lives right now and affecting the world? Or has it been something where it's just been, let's just go to the heavens and play up there and ignore what's going on down here? And then there's no foundation down here.
Absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of the preparation that's been taking place in getting people to operate on the other side of the veil and begin to engage the realms of heaven, a lot of it has not been governmental enough. Therefore, people have had some of the relationship and some of the experiences, but not what this is about. And I'm all for the relationship side of it. Without that, we don't know the heart of God, and therefore we don't know how to govern. But once you've established that relationship, then where's that going to lead? And I think for a lot of people, there has been preparation, and everyone needs forerunners to go ahead and prepare the way. And you have this morphic dissonance, morphic resonance principle that when someone breaks through something, it opens the doors for others to follow. And I think we need forerunners right now to begin to, I think, demonstrate mature sonship, how to govern, how to rule, how to establish the kingdom in heaven so it can be manifested on earth, and how to actually manifest it on earth. And I think that is one of the key things. If we don't make a difference on earth, then actually what difference is it? And so I think there's a lot of preparation being done over the last few years with people, and now the rubber hits the road. And for some, they need the preparation to be put into practice. And I think a lot of those who have a global perspective, and I think you guys, Nancy's Global Ascension Network, for us, our whole mandate is a global thing. And you have a number of global people who have been doing things around the world, connecting with people around the world, helping to establish groups around the world. We now need to mobilize those groups and begin to mobilize people into action to take responsibility, for their own lives, and to rule and establish that foundation that they're not going to operate in fear, but they come in perfect love, and also begin to engage their communities, whether they be virtual communities or physical communities. We have an opportunity of demonstrating the heart of God. I was engaged with a group in Australasia last week, and I was doing a mentoring group, and we were talking about this sort of subject. And one guy, he basically, I've been knowing him for probably 3 or 4 years, and he's a media expert, movie producer, and he really has been looking for, where do I go from here? And we were talking about, taking responsibility to establish something on earth. And he said, look, I really feel that I'm called to do this. But it was like, but how? And so we just sort of encouraged him and supported him and sort of say, hey, you can do this. You're called to this. Well, he emailed me a couple of days ago with this whole scenario where God had introduced him to a few people who were on this journey together, and they're already going to start a group within the week.
Wow.
And so, for me, this is your time to take the opportunities. Don't miss them. Yes, we have to step out in faith. Yes, it's a risk, but hey, we got nothing to lose. Let's press in, begin to affect our communities, outwork the kingdom, see heaven established on earth, and let's demonstrate what God is really like. I think this is what the world really needs. They need the true God, that loving Father, so that they can discover that as his children, that they have a destiny to fulfill, that they've been called for a time such as this.
Absolutely.
It's not
Yeah.
just believers, it's those who are yet to believe, and they're on the verge of believing because they're looking for the answer. Let's make sure we give them the right answer.
Right. And I think one of the things that I really have felt strongly about is as we're stepping into this next stage, that one of the things that we will see is a greater level of unity, moving together. And you had mentioned it on our Thursday night, news broadcast that we were doing, and that, the resources and everything need to come together. And one of the things I really, really, my heart is just like pounding to see this happen is that we would begin to maybe have some collaboration meetings where, leaders and people that feel like they are bringing something to the table, we get together and we start talking about what do we need, what do you have that I don't have that either, maybe will help me, or either we figure out a way that you're just that part of the body. I don't need to be that part of the body. And let's start collaborating so that we can build one body that works together in unity, but not uniformity, not telling everybody what they've got to believe, but that we work together to move the kingdom forward. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm totally excited by it. I think when we were together in Colorado Springs and that being unity came into the room and fried people a little bit, I think that was the thing. Esther was there also, one of the cloud of witnesses. Yeah. And that was a significant moment where there was this reminder that unity commands a blessing. The blessing is the empowerment of God to prosper, to succeed, to fulfill our sonship mandate, to be fruitful, to multiply, to increase, and to subdue and overcome. But to rule, I think that is only going to work effectively from now on with unity. Yes. I think you're going to find that those people who operate independently are going to become less and less successful in what they're doing. And when people are starting to come together in relationship, one heart, one mind, one purpose, God's purpose, not our own agendas, right. No empire building, right. Not actually looking even to promote the individual thing, but actually looking at being part of a bigger picture scenario that God is bringing about to bring us to that place where there's a genuine demonstration of what it is that Father, Son, and Spirit have in unity and oneness and relationship, that we can have the same. And so I'm excited by that. And I think, I've been talking to people around that issue and with a willingness to say, hey, let's move on from where we've been and let's look at how we can collaborate. Where do we go with this? Yeah, it takes some forerunners to kick it off and get it going. But this is not to set up another system of hierarchy. This is actually to empower others.
Yes.
The key.
Yeah. And that's the thing, I've really, probably for 4 or 5 years, I've talked about positional prejudice, and just the idea that, the CEO is better than the janitor or the pastor is better than the laity and all that, that's just a figment of our own, creation. We have created that hierarchy. And yet when we finally are able to let go of that, then I think it allows people to then, with humility, step into the positions that they're created for. And again, there's no hierarchy. It's just like, you've got that position and we need you to be in that position. Every single person is valuable. And I've used the analogy when I was in the military and I had to take my rifle apart and clean it up and then put it all back together. And the smallest piece of that rifle, I could have taken it and just thrown it out, because I thought, well, this is so small, it's pretty insignificant. I'll just throw that thing out. Well, it happened to be the firing pin, and without the firing pin, the whole rifle is no effect against the enemy. So every single person, no matter how small you think your part is absolutely vital for the whole body to come together and have what we call the ultimate impact. And so...
Absolutely. And I think it's those that carry the heart of God for this, and I think that they carry the love and the desire to release people and enable people to come into their destiny. Yeah. are beginning to connect, and I think look at how can we move things forward. And I think there's several different perspectives to it. There's the global perspective on, hey, there are global issues that we're never going to deal with independently, no matter how successful we are individually.
Yeah.
It will never be dealt with unless we come together with others. And I think those that have a global mindset and a willingness to see the big picture and to see what God's doing globally, and to actually look at what is the opposition to that globally. And that is both, I think, spiritual in terms of spiritual entities. And we now have different ways of dealing with spiritual entities, perhaps, than we did a couple of years ago. So we have opportunities here to embrace engaging, to deal with the dynamics that are in place and bring those dynamics into a totally different way of outworking government and dealing with opposition. And there's also mindsets. I think people's mindsets are the thing which hinders them the most. And there are so many religious mindsets, but also mindsets which are parochial and little, and don't see the bigger picture. And we need to open up people's hearts and minds to see, hey, this is an opportunity to change things for the generation to come, and to really deal with the issues that are there. Because everybody, no matter where they are and what they've been into, are going to be vulnerable in a good way to good news right now. And if we start to model and demonstrate a total global ascension mindset, and particularly a global consciousness awakening mindset, that we need to awaken people's consciousness to the true reality of what we're facing, and the true reality of God, the true reality of their destiny, of their calling to be sons, and a global awakening of consciousness to begin to see that it doesn't take that many people coming together in unity of one heart and one mind and purpose to change things forever. To change things dynamically with all of the different things that people are seeing. And everyone will have a different perspective on this, because everyone will probably have one of those things which is their sort of pet project or situation, or even pet hate that they want to see changed. That we're probably not going to all see eye to eye on every one of those, but actually together we'll put all those jigsaw pieces. And we will begin to actually be able together to tackle each of those situations, even if it's not our main thrust, but together we can help each other move forward in all of those situations.
Absolutely.
So, I was talking to Justin and Lindy last week, and they have key areas that they are really passionate about, to want to see change governmentally, to tackle for them some of the biggest things that are in opposition to things moving forward. And they're very different from my passions and my desires and the things that God's put on my heart. But I resonate with them in agreement that together we can actually facilitate these things to really make a huge difference in our time.
Absolutely.
And, the government of heaven operates on seasons, and there's 5 seasons of heaven. Judgment, which is the season we're in right now. So there's a lot of judicial things going on in heaven to stop this whole situation getting out of hand. And so there's a limitation upon what this situation will be able to do negatively, but there's also judgment into that situation to bring good out of it. Then we're going to move into a season of justice, then grace and mercy. Now we've got to be ready to legislate and align the things of heaven so those things can be outworked on earth. Not in the old pattern, God is pouring out judgment on the earth. No, the judgment is already been made. Innocent, not guilty, to life. But they're still making judgments. Those judgments are decisions, effectively, on the evidence, the verdicts that are being made in heaven, to then facilitate justice. And we've got to be ready for that justice to be outworked. And moving through those seasons, be aware and to cooperate with the courts of heaven and the assemblies of heaven and the 24 elders and all of those who are working in those courts of the councils of the fathers and the Yesod of God, to be ready to align things in heaven for the outworking on the earth. And that is my sort of thing, governmental, heavenly government outworking that. aligning the circle of the deep and the 12 chancellors' houses, all of that is the stuff that God's mandated me to do. And I think I can do that in preparation for other people doing their stuff. Because if we base what we do on the precepts of God, which is his heart, on his statute, which is his thinking, his mind, and on his laws, which are his voice, then we can begin to see the ordinances of heaven directed and moved, so that we will get new mantles, new weapons or tools. We will then start to get new scrolls and commissioning for people to come into positions of authority that then will be able to change the affairs of the nations and change culture, so that the resources of the kingdom will be available. And all of those things, and there are discoveries there to be made that we're going to need for this generation to come. New technology, whether it be organic technology, technology based on consciousness, all of that, I think, is ready when we're ready and we have people positioned. Then we can deal with the 7 weather patterns that affect the earth. We can deal with the 9 tectonic plates and subtectonic plates that need governing and ruling. Right now, one of the things that I'm legislating for is working with the elementals to ensure that this groaning, because of fear, does not produce a negativity from the planet in terms of earthquakes and to bring destruction, but to release pressure. And you'll find that I'm legislating for some things which will be releases of pressure in the earth, which will cause no damage. So there may be some volcanic eruptions, there may be some things like that, but they're not going to cause the damage, because the earth needs to release its pressure without causing damage. And the elementals can be working with us in that.
Right.
I'm doing a lot of legislation around that at the minute, just trying to create a calm, a peace, releasing love into it, but getting cooperation with creation itself. Because you can imagine in this situation what would happen if there were huge natural disasters, as they call them. I mean, it would be chaos. And so we really have to step up into these roles as sons of God and begin to see a bigger picture and start operating in some of these governmental roles.
And so, again, I think it's highly, highly valuable and important to have these collaboration meetings, because there are other people that are engaging with the elementals and they have different ideas. And again, we're not going to agree. I can guarantee you that we're not going to fully agree, but how do we work together, to move forward as sons, with one goal in mind of bringing kingdom into the earth? But that collaboration, I think we might, because we disagree in certain areas, we might have a conversation, and you and I might disagree in what we're talking about. But as we have conversation about it, I may come to realize that, oh man, you do have a better way of looking at that and engaging with the elementals or whatever it might be. So, I mean, these collaboration meetings, I think, are going to be really vital as we move forward to see the full kingdom, the body, come together so that we can bring the kingdom into the earth. And again, we're in exciting times, and this whole coronavirus thing has been the catalyst, I think, to bring this together. And it's like, that's beautiful. God always brings something beautiful out of, what we would call tragedy and so forth. If we look for it, we can find it. It's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're in that place where strategically we need to start to collaborate.
Yes.
And to talk and discuss and find out the things that each of us has to bring to the party, if you like, because I'm not expecting other people to do what I do. I can do that, but I need them to do the things they can do, and if they can actually do some things that can help me be more effective or more efficient in what I'm doing, that's great. I'll learn from that. And so I'm open to lots of different perspectives, because we need those different perspectives.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily understand them all, because they're not my thing. I mean, I listen to quite a lot of your Kingdom talks, and I listen to people on there, and I'm like, don't really get that, but that's okay. It's all good.
Yes.
And actually,
that's
interesting. That's interesting. I never thought of it like that. And that's, I think, the benefit, as you say, of being able to talk without having to try and win an argument, prove a point, but just actually get the dialogue going that can unveil and reveal some of the things that probably we're doing that other people have got no idea about, but contribute to what they're doing, and the same from that other reverse perspective.
Yeah.
And coordinate that in a very practical way to see together we have a huge increase, and we're so much more than the sum of individual parts when we come together.
Absolutely.
And I think there's this exponential sense of consciousness that we need to see.
Yeah.
And I think you don't need that many people operating at a mature level of consciousness to begin to affect the whole planet.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we were in Colorado Springs and when we did the activation and Schumann's frequency spiked 8 times, I think,
right.
5 times.
It was amazing.
It's the thing, just because we focused intentionally in releasing our consciousness in agreement to actually bring change, which was actually recorded, scientifically recorded. And that was just what we did in a moment.
Right, with just a handful of people.
Yeah, and when we come together strategically with people who know what they're doing in their field, if you like, then we can sort of operate at a level of maturity, which I believe will enable us to raise the awakening globally for people.
So we, I don't know how much can be shared, but I just know that there are, some gatherings online that are coming up very soon that where we're doing just what you're talking about, and I just want to throw that out there because I'm sure there are people that are watching and saying, well, why are you talking about it? Why don't you do it? Well, we are going to be doing it, and it is already lined up. So I'm excited about it, and we are moving forward with it. So,
yeah, and I think you just have to start where you start. And once you get the momentum moving, then that begins to pick up more. It's like, when you make a snowball, and you make a little snowball, you push some snow together and you can do it in your hands, but then when you then roll it with more snow, it gets to the point where you can't push it anymore.
Right.
You need others to come and join in. And once the momentum's going, it picks up more and more and more snow. And the bigger it gets, the bigger it starts to move. I mean, I made a snowball like that once. I mean, we don't get snow that often, but this is when I was sort of teenager, we made a snowball which was 12 feet high. Because we started at the top of this huge field and we zigzagged this thing. And there was enough of us. When we got down to the bottom of the field, it was enormous. And I think this is the potential for what we can do when we start to come together with a few people who are going to share heart, share mind, come together in agreement. Then it will begin to pick up traction, momentum, and then all those global groups that are represented by maybe a few of us coming together will be mobilized and empowered and envisioned to actually affect the whole planet. And obviously beyond, because we know what goes on here affects the rest of creation and all the dimensions. So it's really important that we embrace this moment and facilitate that.
I'm so excited. I want to just jump up and down right now because, even as we're talking about it, just, the realization that what we understand now is still, it's not even a drop in the ocean for, the limitlessness of Yahweh. And that as we're stepping in and beginning this process that, like you said, that snowball that began as a little thing, it's going to grow, so fast that it's going to be incredible to see what's coming just in the next, 5 to 10 years. I think we're going to see the face of the earth, I believe, is going to be, at least spiritually, it is going to be very different than what we see today.
Absolutely. And if you think of it as, an increase exponentially, it doesn't take a lot to get very quickly. I mean, 2 squared 4, 4 squared 16, 16 squared 256. Then you have 256 squared, which I think is 6,500 and something 53, I think. And then you square that, you have so many billion.
Yeah.
And you square that, you have a lot. And therefore, I think once we begin to get this moving and increasing, just think of it in a natural sense. all of us have groups of people that we're connected to around the world that we can mobilize, that we can help, we can encourage. And each of them has connections to people, and each of them has connections to people. It does not take an awful long time. Even if you started with one person reaching 2 people a year, and then they'd reach 32 years, you could reach the whole world. If you start with, let's say we've got maybe 10, 20,000 people that we can start with. Well, how long does it take with 20,000 people reaching 2 people a year? Not that long to change the whole of the face of our generation and history, in a quick way. And if we mobilize people, envision them, empower them, see them positioned in their heavenly roles, and then outworking it on the earth, we can see a huge dynamic change.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, hey, we're about halfway through the hour. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey there. Thank you for joining Kingdom Talks. We are taking a short break to share with you the life-changing online course called Ultimate Impact. Gil and Adina do an amazing job taking the complicated and making it simple and applicable for your life. Ekklesia groups are using this course to shift their thinking into the next age paradigm. Yeshua spoke of power, authority, love, and oneness that we have yet to walk in. So if you're ready to deconstruct limiting beliefs in order to step into what Father is doing now, this course is for you. Sign up today at kingdomtalksmedia.com under the Courses tab. Now, back to the show.
All right, we are back with Mike Parsons, and Mike, even as I was just watching this little break that we took, one of the things that Dean and I, our heart is to help people cross over. There's a lot of people that are hungry, they're out there looking, and it's like, I want to reach them. And Adina and I have done our best over the last few years to create a step-by-step bridge that builds a foundation that then launches them into, an area where they can start receiving what, some like you and Nancy and, Ian and others, they're so far ahead that I know when I was first exposed to Ian, I was ready to just walk out the door. I was like done because I was like, this guy's crazy. But, at the same time, my spirit was engaging, and eventually I came around to understand, wow, this stuff is real. And so anyway, what we were looking for was an easy entry point. And so that's what we've developed. And it's like, so we've got things to share. Everybody's got their part in their puzzle to bring, their piece of the puzzle to bring, so that we can all form the picture that Father has for us. And it's a beautiful picture, but until we're all willing to kind of just take our puzzle piece and put it in where it's meant to be, and not try to be something that we're not. And that's something that in the past, you got the world telling everybody that everybody should be a CEO. Everybody needs to be at that leadership level. And the thing is, we are all equal, but we have different responsibilities. And so the thing is, when we take responsibility for what we are called to do, then that, again, is when the body comes together, and I believe we can have our ultimate impact at that point, as individuals and as bodies, regionally and worldwide. So I'm super excited about what God is doing, and it's coming together.
And I think looking at the different people that I know that I'm connecting with in this way, we've all got different aspects. For us, the Engaging God program is, again, something similar, but it's probably more governmental in its eventual perspective. That has, I think, 12 different modules, probably sometimes 40 to 50 teachings in each module, which are designed to help people come into the maturity of sonship, both relationally, but also governmentally. And I think that legislative role, is one that God has called me to be a legislator. Carrying the oracles of the Father's heart means you can legislate the oracles of the Father's heart into the dynamic of life around us. And so, I think each of us has that. Nancy's Global Ascension Network. Again, there's a global aspect of people who have been taught to gather and engage and become governmental in what they're doing. And I think that needs to accelerate now.
Yeah.
You know, we need to accelerate the governmental perspective of it, because we have an opportunity right now in this dynamic that we're in to facilitate people who are searching to find answers. And if you think of all those people, you know, talking about crossing over, you know, how many people are wandering around the wilderness figuratively, who are involved in some sort of religious activity, even spirit-filled, you know, people operating with spiritual gifts and all of those dynamics, but they're not operating within the fullness of their heavenly inheritance. And they're actually being forced out of church right now. And that's not a bad thing for those who are looking for something. And this is going to be the thing that either gives them cold turkey, and they're going to go through cold turkey of church, and then they're going to not look back, and they're going to be looking for what next.
Right.
You know, what's next? And there will be those who are being weaned off slowly the need for the structures of church. And I'm not against church. You know, I'm committed in that God will use the living stones that he is putting together to establish Ekklesia, which is more technically correct form of words. But all of those things are not franchises. They're not following the corporate franchise model. They're all individual groups of people, living stones that God is putting together with a blueprint for a purpose. And I believe God is calling people out of the wilderness right now. And there are loads of people who are there looking and seeing there is a promised land, or where is the promised land? Because this is no longer it for me. The wilderness is no longer it. And therefore we need to offer them that opportunity of entering in, crossing over, finding their identity from a heavenly perspective, an eternal now perspective, and from that perspective begin to outwork that in finding their position where they're seated in heavenly places, and out of the heart of God, the relationship that they have from that intimate place, begin to outwork their destiny. And I believe, again, there's an amazing opportunity to see people come out of the religious institutions and establish true Ekklesia all over the world, physically, virtually. There is no format, which is a formula. It's whatever God gives revelation about how to do it. And that's the exciting thing. We don't have to go back into the McDonald's or the KFC or the Burger King or any other model. We now can discover the true way God can give you a blueprint from heaven, so that blueprint can be established on earth. You know, and I love the concept of embassies, because an embassy has an ambassador, and we're all ambassadors, that does not function under the authority of the country they're sent to, but from the country they're sent from. And if we are sent from heaven into the earth to be gateways of heaven into the earth, we're operating under the laws of heaven, under the government of heaven, the kingdom, not the earth. And therefore we do not need to be subject to all of this shaking and things that are going on, because we carry the authority as sons to, no matter what the storm is, to say, peace be still. Because that's what comes from when you're in a place of rest. And peace be still.
And I just want to say to the listeners right now, because you know, there's a lot of people listening, and as we mentioned earlier, we've already heard from some that seem to be kind of wavering, and I just would say, press into the rest, press into, you know, what Father's been showing you. And, you know, I can tell you right now that, you know, the darkness is going to want to creep in, and it has for some people. You know, it's fears kind of you know, snuck its way in and caused some people to doubt. And I just want to say, do not give that entity of doubt or anger or frustration, depression, whatever, don't give it the time of day. Just step right into the opposite, which the Spirit of God is there, Holy Spirit is there, love is there. You know, step in and engage with the entity that is the opposite of whatever has drawn you down, and get engaged, because this is the season to get engaged, not back off. And just can't say that strongly enough.
And I think if you look at it from that perspective of the disciples who were faced with natural issues, which seemingly put them in peril and danger, They took their eyes off the solution, which was right there with them in the boat, asleep, completely rest and peace. And immediately when they woke him up, he said, "Peace, be still," and immediately supernaturally took them and the whole boat to the other side of the lake in an instant. There are supernatural answers to a lot of the issues that we face. And there may be things in the future. I mean, Peter was called to walk on the waters, and he was fine until he took his eyes off Jesus and started to look at the wind and the waves, and then he began to sink. But God didn't let him sink. Jesus didn't let him sink. He still rescued him out of that situation. So even if people are at the moment struggling, look to the answer, not the problem.
Right.
And if the problem you're looking at, you keep looking at it, trying to fix it, it just gets bigger.
Right.
But you look to the solution, the problem gets smaller because the solution is limitless.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is the problem for a lot of people. They're trying to stop doing something or trying to fix something with the same methodology that created it in the first place. And it never works, and I use this illustration quite a bit, but it's like, if I tell you not to think of a green door, don't think of a green door. Do not think of a green door. Immediately, in not trying to think of a green door, you're thinking of a green door. Right. If I tell you, think of a red door, think of a red door, think of a red door, you haven't got any time to think of a green door because you're thinking of a red door. And this is how our whole consciousness can take on a different capacity to begin to focus on engaging the truth, the way, the truth, the life, the light, all of that dynamic of who God is, and actually see he is limitless in grace, in mercy, in love. And no matter what the situation is, it only takes a word from that place of intimacy and knowing that you're loved unconditionally to say, "Peace, be still."
Yeah.
And we can live in the eye of the storm. It doesn't mean that there are no storms, but we live in the eye of the storm at rest, ready at the moment to say, "Peace, be still."
Yeah.
And from that place of rest, begin to change things. So I understand why people are fearful, but God is perfect love, is wanting to draw us into a place of intimacy where from that level of intimacy, there is no need to fear because we trust. Jesus said, "Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry." And someone added the thing, "Be happy," in the song. But in reality, what he was saying is, if you put your trust in me, you don't need to worry because I've got it. Yeah, and I've got those things.
I think, unfortunately for a lot of people during this time, they've found a lot of idleness. And in that idleness, because their minds have not already been engaging with the Father in the heavens, that idleness just created this open gate for all the negativity, versus those who have already been engaged and started the process of engaging with the Father on a regular basis. Once we realize, wow, I don't have anything else to distract me now, I can begin to engage and go even deeper and deeper. So it's that meditation process on what are you meditating on? Meditating on the solution, on Yeshua, or meditating on the problem. And, in the past, I know that was a big problem for me years ago. I mean, decade ago, you get a bill in the mail that unexpected, and all of a sudden you're thinking, "Oh no, I can't make the car payment. Oh no, I can't make the house payment. I'm going to be homeless. You're using your imagination to go down the wrong path. Versus now, it's like my father's got more money than, money is not an issue for him. And so if a bill comes, it's like, yeah, whatever. It's just focusing on him because he is always the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we can only truly know who we are by looking into the mirror of his face. And then we see reflected back who he says we are, not how we may have been shaped by the world, thought about ourselves, or what other people might have said to us. He wants us to know his thoughts, those vast sum of his thoughts about us that will begin to, when we, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, you begin to think according to his thoughts about yourself and everything else around you. Everything begins to change. We just need to keep looking in his face. Just keep looking into his face, looking into that relational thing where heaven is open. He is there. And it's not just heaven, he's in us.
Right.
We can engage him on the inside of us. We have a garden in our own heart.
That's
We have
the
our own
beauty.
spirit to engage him. Yeah, he'll turn up in the room. I mean, when I first wanted to engage with God and talk to him and have a conversation with him, I put a chair opposite myself in the office, shut the door because I didn't locked it. I didn't want anyone coming in. And I had to get over myself because I was talking in an empty chair, but he's with me. So it wasn't really empty from that perspective. He promises never to leave me, to forsake. I just needed to have something that I could use as an aid to talk to him. So I would just think, okay, I'm going to talk to you. And I would talk to him out loud. Now I can talk to him in my mind, but then I talk to him out loud and I would just ask him something, and I would wait and listen. And I learned to listen to the sound of his voice. And I began to realize that I could have a conversation. Now, that's when I started journaling. I started journaling when he started to talk to me about things that I didn't know myself.
I've got
that I didn't make up. Yeah. And I didn't make up what he was saying because there were things I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I learned to journal and to focus. And now I love just spending time in the presence of God, whether it be in my room and I sense his presence with me and around me, or I go and engage him on the inside of me because he's there, or I go into the realms of heaven or into eternity. It doesn't really matter so much where you're engaging with him. The fact, just engage with him. Start in your room. Start the fact, invite him to be with you. Then yes, you may, behold, I stand at the door and knock, and open that door in your spirit and let him come in and fill you. And there's a door standing open in heaven. Step into that doorway and step into that realm and engage him there. There are steps to it, but start somewhere.
One of the things that that Father's been showing me, because we kind of go through, for me anyway, I go through these seasons where he speaks to me this way, and then that kind of fades away, and then he speaks to me this way. And right now, just is this understanding that, he lives within me. So that means every answer to any question, all the knowledge of the universe resides in me. And to realize that, and just realize that part of my journey is to become aware of what's already in me, that he is in me, and that as I become more and more aware of who he is in me and who I am in him, that process, and it's one of those things where I'm pressing in because I know that there's something fabulous there, but it hasn't quite clicked yet. But there's been multiple things that have been that way for me. And it's just looking at the fact that he's in me, and that means every answer, all the knowledge of the universe resides in me, and just to let that flow and engage with it. It's been pretty fascinating.
I mean, that's my daily life. I mean, I engage when I wake up in the morning. I say hi to God.
Yep.
And I invite him in, and Father, Son, and Spirit come fill me in my spirit, and I stand in the circle of their being, and I just get this heart-to-heart cardiogenosis knowledge of the heart. I don't even have to say anything. They don't have to say anything generally.
Right.
That starts my day. I'm standing in that perichoresis. And some people describe perichoresis, which is the original Greek term for this circle of relationship that Father, Son, and Spirit are in, that we're invited in. They call it the circle of the dance, but actually it actually means circle of the conversation, because choresis and chorea, which are very similar in Greek, actually mean two different things. And the root of that is actually chorea, which is conversation. So I am standing in the midst of their conversation about me and everything that I need to associate with every day. So I just absorb it. I absorb it, and that then guides me and directs me my whole day. I'm in heaven. And yes, I'm standing there in heaven also because my spirit's in heaven while my soul's engaging on earth. And I can be within the four faces of God in heaven all the time. I can be within eternity, within the heart and mind of God outside of time and space all the time, when I learned to be able to be in multiple places at the same time, and not having to step in, step out, step in, step out.
Right.
Be there and be here, completely connected, quantumly entangled. My spirit is in that realm doing multiple things right now.
Yep.
And I'm connected to my soul and my soul is connected to my body, and I've energized that flow of life which is coming out of heaven through that gateway that I open, and that activates my life every day to give me limitless energy. Because I learned how to do it. I learned how to focus energy. The river of life is filled with life. It is
right. It's energy.
Immortality. It is limitless energy that we can actually see. And I focus it through the gateways of my spirit, soul, and body. I engage the Merkaba in it. I engage the seven seals or gateways, or whatever we want to call them. And I activate them, deliberately. And so I live from heaven in a limitless sense of energy every day out of the heart of God. And I'm not any different than anyone else. I just practiced it. I just kept every day engaging.
It's available to everybody. Yeah. I was holding these up because I've got two different journals that I work on now. One is just my daily conversations with Father in all encounters in heaven. But this one, I've got written at the top of it. It just says I am, because about 6 months ago, I was having a conversation with the Holy Spirit, and I was basically asked if I wanted to know what was in the thought process when I was created. So not here on the earth, but when I was created, whatever part of me came out of the Father. Anyway, it's been a 6-month journey of writing that down and what went into the thought process when I was created. And so even to say that, for me, I personally don't believe that, because we're in the Father, He's in us, that we've always existed with Him. But at what point was I pulled out in order to create, do a specific function, because we're all a specific function in the Father. And anyway, it's just been a fascinating journey. And if people are called to do that, I would encourage it, just because it really, really begins to pour into you, how valuable you are. And that you have a purpose, and that there's really nothing that can destroy that. Your purpose is always there. It's just how often are you aware of it and engaging with it? And it's just a beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you're recording the vast sum of His thoughts about you, and your interaction with them from the eternal perspective into time, and it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
I love to catch glimpses of those thoughts, and it transforms the way you think about yourself. It transforms how you see the world, how you see creation. The deeper I've gone into that with God face to face, the more the passion for restoration of all things has come, because He's just shown me how limitless is His love, the depth, the height, the breadth, that His love is limitless, unending, will never fail. And as I've experienced that towards me, towards others, seeing how He sees everyone, because it's not just you and me that He thinks that way about. It's every single person who has ever existed and ever will exist. And He thinks like that, and every one of them has an identity as a child of God.
Yeah. And
when you see that, it just gives you that passion to want to see everyone restored to that original intention and purpose that God has for them.
Yeah.
So they can be restored, made whole from their brokenness, fragmentation, all of the things that are hindering that process. The love which will draw people into it will ultimately bring them to be restored into the person that God always desired them to be in relationship with Him. It's a wonderful thing.
It is.
How deep the love goes.
I when I first started doing it, at first I was like, this is kind of, it almost felt in the beginning, a little self-serving, but at the same time, I also know very well that this is the truth that each and every person needs to know, because we've got to get rid of the darkness, because, the darkness wants to overshadow what the Father's doing and give us an identity that doesn't belong to us. So the more, we can just focus on, okay, here's the good things that Father's saying about me. And if there's anything negative, well, that's the darkness overshadowing. So let's just push that aside and stay focused on the positive, because this is what this is what he created. And I want to just let go of the darkness and just not give it the time of day, just push it aside and ignore it, because it has no effect on me. It doesn't have to. I can give it effect on me, but I don't want it to, so I'm not going to let it. Anyway, it is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It is. And, there's just no bottom. It's a bottomless well.
Yes.
That you can draw out of, and, God is love. That's the reality of this. It's his essence, it's his nature, it's his character. He is love, and he's light, and he's spirit, and he's fire. And those four things, not that he isn't everything else also, but in a sense, those four things are what the Bible says as direct things that are attributed to him. And all of those are complementary. They are, all aspects of an outworking of love. Light is love. Love is light. Fire is love. Love is fire. And all of that is just wonderful to discover, who he really is, which is so different from everything that I was ever taught and ever discovered trying to study it out or figure it out. I had to encounter it.
Yeah.
I had to experience it to know the reality of that. And that totally changed and transformed my whole life. And my passion, and when God revealed the oracles of his heart, which are the things which are expressions of love, that again just totally challenged to go deeper and deeper. Yeah, how passionate he is, that he has a burning desire for relationship with us. This is not just, oh, well, it will be nice. That God has absolute total motivation of love to have a relationship with all his children.
Amen.
And he is intensely joyful when he thinks about every one of his children.
Yeah.
And he's not thinking about all the things we've not done, all the things we've done wrong. He's just thinking about who he created.
Yeah. Amen.
And he has such compassion for us.
So we got about a minute left here. Just want to, any final words before we close out?
Well, I would just encourage people to focus on engaging with God directly, Father, Son, and Spirit. Find that perfect love. Allow that perfect love to produce in you trust, because it will cast out fear. And ultimately, if we're afraid, then we're not trusting in God's provision, his protection, his direction. We're trusting in that something has more powerful than God. Well, nothing is more powerful than God. And all we have to do is keep looking at him, not just to see how powerful he is as being omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent and all of that, but actually we are his children, we're his sons, and actually we're to be a reflection of it as well.
Absolutely.
And I think the more we see that, the more we will begin to think the way he thinks. And that means as a man thinks, so is he. And that will totally transform us if we keep looking at the right thing, which is him.
Love it, love it. So do you have a few minutes to do some behind the scenes then?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this portion up. If you would like to see the behind the scenes section, go to our website, kingdomtalksmedia.com, and sign up as a partner, and you can get the behind the scenes sections where we dive in a little deeper on a few other subjects. But for now, we just want to say bless you and thank you. And Mike, thank you so much for being on here. So love our conversations. Right. They're always good. All right. Blessings. Take care.
Thank you for taking time out to listen to Kingdom Talks. You can find out more about Kingdom Talks Media and our mission to unite in faith and grow as mature sons at kingdomtalksmedia.com. Please continue to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, Fringe Radio Network, and many more places. Go to our website to find links to all of our media outlets, as well as fantastic online courses and conferences, including the life-changing interactive course, Ultimate Impact. And last but not least, we ask that you consider partnering with us to fulfill the mission to get these messages to the world. To become a partner, go to the Partnership tab on our website. Thank you, and until next time, live a blessed life and keep carrying us in your heart and sharing us wherever hearts are open.